Warning, this video contains minor spoilers.
Alisoft released a Housewife's Healing Touch.
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening! Everyone stay calm! What's the procedure, everyone? I don't understand what's going on here.
This story is a Nukige and is split into two routes, the NTR route and the Pure Love route, which you could get separately, but both routes have the same prologue. So the setting is in a world of magic where mana is considered to be the life force of the human population, but this doesn't apply to the MC, at least not yet, because he couldn't manifest his ability to use mana for magic even after becoming legal. As a result, he was left by his family to be under the care of another family that specializes in magical research in a hidden village. But he did bring out his magical powers during a tragic incident. However, due to him being a late bloomer, he was put under the supervision of a healer, which is a MILF, in order for her to teach him how to control his magic. The thing is though, in this world, in order for you to control your magic, you need to control your mana. And in order for you to control your mana, you have to do horny. Basically speaking, you need to do some carnal stuff so that the mana circulation in your body flows smoothly. And the way for you to replenish your mana is by receiving fluids from the opposite sex. Imagine, your partner is literally your reason for being alive. Shout out to my viewers who are single. We're Anyway, in the NTR route, it's basically this old dude and the villagers trying to defile the MILF and thus slowly corrupting her personality, whereas the Pure Love route focuses on the MC and the MILF falling in love with each other. Since this story is 3 parts, I recorded separate playtimes for each, with the prologue being 1 hour and 9 minutes, NTR route being 2 hours and 37 minutes, and the Pure Love route being 2 hours and 11 minutes. Damn, NTR is longer. We lost, guys. Don't worry, hopefully Alisoft will realize their mistake after this video. By the way, VNDB's average playtime recorded so far is 8 hours and 30 minutes. The very simple young man, the pitiful and miserable alchemist, the confusing but definitely horny old f***, the chat and based thief, and the married MILF. Okay, since this story is split into 2 routes for 2 separate fetishes, we have 2 protagonists. The NTR route is played as Soya, while the Pure Love route is played as Shion. Let's start with the latter first. So Shion is basically the generic hero kind of character, but adds some horniness to him. Though I would say that his horniness is not even on a high level, it's like low to mid, depending on the routes. He loved the MILF ever since the first moment they met, so it's like a love at first sight kind of thing, but he initially kept it to himself. Shion also tends to get jealous once their relationship becomes closer in the Pure Love route. To me, I personally don't like reading this protagonist. He feels too simple and boring, which is a downgrade when compared to Alisoft's previous protagonists, Alex and Aster, to which I have both reviewed. Next, Soya, who is the MILF's husband. But before we continue, I want to correct something here.
One called the Pure Love route, which I believe is having the main character save the heroine from an abusive husband.
No offense to Ange, but the husband is not abusive. He's a very gentle and caring soul who deeply loves his wife. He is a frail person due to his sickly condition, but he compensates for it by being a skilled alchemist who has vast knowledge about magic. The thing is though, his frail body puts a burden on both him and his wife, because he can't do the fun stuff enough, which troubles the MILF due to the nature of this world setting, you know, with the mana circulation and replenishment and all. By the way, Ange, did I manage to piss you off? After that, this old Go. He's the father of Soya, so he's the MILF's father-in-law, and he's also the chief of the village they live in. Go is also a very strong and imposing person, which is to be expected since he's the leader of the villagers, and Shion learns martial arts under his tutelage. Just like Shion, he also wants to f*** the MILF, but in a darker way. As for his personality, Go is headstrong and stubborn, but he enters an appeasing mode whenever confronted by the MILF. Well, we know why. He wants to get into her pants, duh. He's not the only one though. There is another character that wants to bang her as well, and it's the mysterious but also chat thief, Jabi. He's the cool character, cool and distant, what's the word for it? aloof because he doesn't engage much with the other characters, especially Go, since Jabi is a thief that came from outside the village in order to find treasure, but he does show up from time to time. Jabi is also like a ladies' man in addition to being a thief, so he tries to steal the MILF's heart and bodice for himself. I mean, who wouldn't? If I was the character in this story, I would want to smash her as well. Speaking of which, the MILF is called Rui, and she is the healer. The only healer in the village, and she helps the villagers with their mana circulation and of course heals them when they're injured. Rui also wants to have a child due to this settings phenomenon called mating call, which is basically the woman sending out pheromones to the men around them in order for them to get banged for the sake of procreation. But she has been controlling her pheromones for the sake of her husband. Depending on which route you choose, this woman can either be dumb and stupid or loving and wholesome. I guess I don't need to point out the obvious, but either way, she will be unfaithful regardless, and there's nothing you can do about it. By the way, there are other characters, but they don't have sprites of their own, and most don't even have names. Like, for example, there's like Youth A and Youth B, etc. These characters would be more relevant in the NTR route due to reasons. There are two side characters which might seem more impactful, especially given their role in the prologue, who are this and this, namely Redhead and Ravenhead. I mean, they were given their own voices after all. I assume that they have a bigger role in the plot than the other characters, even if it's just slightly bigger. And there is one issue that I have with their voice setting, but of course, let's move on to the next section in order to explore that part. So there will be different tones of the main page. This is the prologue, then the NTR route, and finally, the pure love route. In the two routes, the start button here will play the prologue again, while the start route button, as the name says, will start the route immediately after the prologue's ending. The manual button here will lead to Alisoft's website page for the game, the cover, the info, and all the rest over here. But now let's get into the settings, and it does show Alisoft's theme based on my experience of the Eve Nickel series. We have the text speed, text frame, audio. Oh god, why does this exist as well? Mouse settings, window settings, and finally, the game settings. The story will all be told in an ADV style. Pretty standard overall. And you can repeat voices with this button here, and this bar at the bottom here controls the text box opacity. The music in this Nukige is okay, nothing special, but the visuals are really good and detailed. Shout out to this user for commenting on the background detail when I posted a screenshot of it in Reddit. But I'll be honest though, the character designs, they're not as appealing to me. As for the English translation, it's good overall, no grammar mistakes if I recall correctly, but there is one typo shown on screen. But becomes burr, but that's the only mistake I found. Can't blame the translator here though. He must have exhausted himself from jerking off to this Nukige, I guess. This Nukige has gameplay, so you have to work your ass if you want to get the horny, you f***ing degens. But don't worry, the gameplay is very simple. Let's start with the most complex one that is in the pure love route, despite being simple. This is how the gameplay will look like. The protagonist is animated as shown here and will move around if you click on the destination button at the right side of the screen. Your saves and other stuff is located here. The objective of the game in the pure love route is to obviously get Rui pregnant as a progression of the story, which is shown as a progress bar in the top left corner. In order to do that, you need to get event points, or EP for short, which is shown here in the bottom right. If you have insufficient event points, you can't progress the story, which is through story events as shown by Rui's avatar here. You need to go to her avatar to access the story events, but if her pose is like this, which indicates that you don't have enough EPs, the story doesn't continue. Once you have sufficient EPs, her pose will be like this. Very cute. And only then can you activate the story events. In order to get event points, you need to fight demons in the gate here, which will transport the MC's avatar into this part of the screen at the bottom. Battle depends on the MC's HP and MP, which is typical. HP determines how long you can stay inside the gate, while MP determines how many demons you can beat. Your HP depletes automatically once you start fighting in the gate, and the longer you stay in there, the faster your HP depletes. But don't worry if your HP gets to 0, you will automatically exit the gate, so you don't actually die in this game. In order for you to start fighting demons, just click this advanced arrow and the game will do the rest. The only other thing you could control manually is just the retreat arrow. By the way, once your MP hits 0, you will no longer fight the monsters and just enter this defense stance, which is just a waste of time, so just retreat. If you want to replenish mana, go to Rui's lab here, For HP, go to the spring here. You might also notice that there is a day and night mechanic here. You will get 3 turns during the day and 3 turns at night. This mechanic exists because demons at night are stronger and will require more MPs to fight, but they give out higher EPs when defeated. The last thing in the Pure Love route will be about Soya's workshop. Here, you will upgrade Shion's armor, which will increase both his HP and MP. As for the NTR route, the story progression is much simpler. You play as Soya and all you have to do is just click on the destination buttons shown. They will mostly be just one button, but there are some cases where there will be two, like this. These options will affect your couple bond shown here. Throughout the game, the couple bond will decrease due to the nature of the route, but there will be some moments where you could replenish them again to full. This mechanic will affect these two progress bars here. Rui will either get pregnant from Jabi or some other dudes. This is due to the game having two endings, and your couple bond determines which ending you take. One little detail I like is that once your couple bond is down to 0, Soya's avatar will be like this. Sick and frail. Normally he will be okay though. And that's it. If my explanation here isn't good enough, you can always refer back to the manual. Hehe. Okay, I have several tips, and this is all for the Pure Love route because there's jack shit that you could do in the NTR route. Firstly, upgrade Shion's armor ASAP at Soya's workshop until it caps out at 35 HP and 15 MP. Second, try to fight the demons at night more because each demon gives out 5 event points for the price of 3 mana points, while the demons during the day only gives out a 1-to-1 ratio. Which seems nicer early on, but as I've mentioned, the longer you stay in the gate, the faster your HP drains. So you won't even get to drain your mana points as fast as your hit points. 3-to-5 ratio is the better bargain. Lastly, I've mentioned that you could replenish your hit points at the spring and mana points in Rui's lab. But the spring is only open during the day, while Rui's lab is only open at night. Because she'll be busy tending to the villagers during the day, and the spring is only open to the women at night. So plan your day accordingly. As mentioned in the gameplay section, the NTR route has 2 endings. There will be several points throughout the game where you will have to decide between 2 choices that will also determine which ending you get into. I will put a guide later on. As for the Pure Love route, it is a linear plot, not kinetic. There is a point where you have to pick between 2 choices as well, but neither of them will affect the outcome of the story. It's effing pointless. Ugh, this is frustrating. Given that this is a Nukige, don't expect a rich story from this VN. The story is meh, and although horny is implemented into the plot, the execution is kinda decent at best. The character interactions are better in the Pure Love route than in the NTR route, like way better, and at some points in the NTR route, I just think that the characters are like stupid and brainless. Of course, if you want to experience the full story, you gotta read both routes, but once you've read the NTR route, you'll feel the inconsistency in the Pure Love route. Meaning the characters. It's like some characters don't do what they're supposed to do, especially Jabi and Go, for the sake of the plot, meaning plot armor for the MC. But there are some similar scenes in both routes, so at least there is some consistency there. Pacing of the story also gets off sometimes, especially in the prologue, because it feels like suddenly there's a change in atmosphere out of nowhere. As for the routes themselves, an NTR route is relatively worse than the Pure Love route. This is me subjectively and objectively speaking. The NTR route doesn't feel like quality NTR. It just feels like the FMC goes to bang everyone. In my case, I just felt meh. This is because the route isn't even really played in Soya's perspective, but actually more from Rui's point of view. So I guess that the developers put Soya as the protagonist in order to justify that this is the NTR route. To me, I don't feel anything. The plot in the NTR route just feels like sequences of events, not a progression of story. No character development or anything except for Jabi. The FMC at one point feels bad for her husband and then feels forced to get smashed, but then she doesn't care, then she feels bad again. What the F? As I've said, it's inconsistent. Besides that, some parts of the plot will leave out more questions than answers, which I could say that they will answer in the ending, but due to the inconsistency in the story, it doesn't really give off a satisfying feeling. There are also some moments that you will wonder why this particular character is even here, why did he make this kind of decision, why did he take this side, sort of thing. It's like he just pops out of nowhere and bam, there's something. No answers, just leave more questions, as I've said. That being said, the endings themselves are decent. Not good, but not trash either. But I would argue that the Pure Love route's ending is better than both of the NTR's endings. To add to that, one of the NTR's endings is significantly better than the other one. Okay, bad stuff. First of all, the choices in the pure love route is whether you choose to release something inside or outside. But it doesn't matter because you know why? The MC will release it inside regardless. What's the point of the choices then? Oh my god. Nice, I think that the prologue having a gameplay is kind of pointless because the story in the prologue is kinetic. No choices. Nothing. You will only get one button to click on throughout the entire prologue in order to progress the story. So to me, I just feel like it doesn't serve any real purpose because it doesn't feel like you're actually playing. You're not fighting or making choices to change the story. I think it's something like this.
It's the illusion of free will.
After that, something related to the sounds page. Okay, put aside my hatred towards the muting feature, there is something that I don't understand about. That is the naming of the voices. Yes, you have Rui, then suddenly you have Akemi and other here. If you notice in my character section, I didn't mention an Akemi. That's because she plays a later role in the pure love route, but none in the NTR route. So in the NTR route, you'll be like, who the fuck is Akemi? Seriously. And the other voice here is apparently just the Ravenhead because there are only 3 voices in both games. The women. The men are not voiced. So might as well just change the other name to Ravenhead or just give her a name, Elisoft. But unfortunately, these 2 voices don't matter at all in the NTR route, which leads us to the next point. The inconsistency of characters. Heck, I think the only major character that is consistent is Soya. As mentioned in the last section, the characters, I feel like they don't bring much meaning to the story. For example, let's say that this particular character does a lot in this route, but then doesn't bother to do much in this other route. Like, Ghost horniness suddenly just doesn't exist in the pure love route. What the hell? Plot armor much? Speaking of plot armor, I don't like Shion. He feels like a generic hentai protagonist. He's boring and his badass scenes just felt meh. Bloody hell, I like Jabi more than Shion. And Jabi shines more in the NTR route. Which brings us to the good stuff. Because Jabi is my favorite character in this Nukige. He is cool, calm, collected, badass and smooth with the ladies. Why the hell is the side character better than the main character? One other thing I want to give appreciation for is the visuals. But I guess this is the compensation for the light in story. LOL. Last but not least, the amount of by the MILF. Legendary. A big ass compensation for what this story is lacking. Here, have some. Guys, for the NTR route, because the pure love route is linear, so skip to the next section if you just want to buy the pure love route. Timestamp will be in the description or up there. Okay, the best ending in the NTR route is with Jabi. If you want to enter this ending, make sure to refill your couple bond by going to Rui's lab instead of the workshop whenever they appear. Then the choices will be like this. Pause the video if necessary. If you don't replenish your couple bond, the choices won't even appear, so yeah, have fun getting cucked, you degenerates. Speaking of which, let's move on to the next section. So yeah, naturally you would get a lot of H scenes in both routes. Some scenes are long while others are like short to medium. NTR has UB, backdoor, tentacles, and a tech that involves multiple males and one female, while the pure love route has the usual vanilla stuff. Some scenes will feel repetitive with the same CGs used but changes in text. The scenes themselves are okay, but I expected to get like clapping sound effects in this day and age, but there isn't any. Which is a shame, though there are some lubrications and sliding sound effects. There are background BJ voices as well, which is a bonus. And speaking of the voices, all 3 voice actresses did exceptionally well, so no complaint on this part. One surprising thing I want to add about the NTR route is that it isn't all bad. There are some good ones that don't involve the UB, so as H scenes themselves, they're not all terrible. And hey, I jacked off to the scenes in the pure love route already. So, this Nukige has achieved its objective. Overall, this story by Elisoft is so-so at best, even after taking the pure love into account. Speaking of which, the pure love itself is NTR, just not Netorare, but Netori. Because the MC himself is the one cucking. But then again, the NTR route doesn't feel like NTR anyway because it's from the MILF's point of view. Therefore, these 2 games are a matter of perspective, but with a meh story, inconsistent characters, and a decent ending at best. Now, if I were to rate them separately, Pure Love Route is a 7, NTR Route a 6, thus total Degen score will be a 6.5. It's okay if you want to get this for the horny and not the plot, but the story here is not too simple to be ignored, and plus, you have to play through the damn gameplay to get to the horny anyway. Come on, Lsoft. What happened to you? You can do better than this. That's all from me. Later, gents.